Thank you. I'd like to, first of all, thank the Gumatj people for welcoming us here to share our story. And I'd also like to pay my respects to the Gunditjmara community with whom I have shared an amazing journey in developing part of our program. One of the things about designing this on-country learning experience has been that it includes both a framework that's allowed for teaching as well as now leading into research projects. One of the frameworks that we began, when I began working in this space about 5 years ago, the focus was very much on achieving parity. There's only a very low number of Indigenous people who are engaged in the engineering profession. How that narrative has now changed quite dramatically, and the key point here is the last line, which is about transformation. So it's responding to the needs of Indigenous people and improving the quality of their experiences at university, but also I think more importantly it's an opportunity for us white Westerners to rethink our ways of knowing, of being and of doing, and of ultimately influencing some of the core engineering practices. So our story is centred at Budgebim. Budgebim is World Heritage, now nominated for World Heritage Cultural Landscape. It is a part of the national landscape, and it is traditionally owned by the Gunditjmara Traditional Owners Corporation. And I'd like to share with you some of our story in the way that we've worked together to develop this relationship. A little bit about the area. Gunditjmering is in southwest Victoria, and Budgebim is a landscape which was dominated by volcanoes and is now famous for, or well known for, its eel traps and for the stone housing and the way that the Gunditjmara people have worked with the land to develop settlements. The framework for our subject was informed by a number of things, by a shift in philosophy, by the practices that we have, by the place, by the people, and by the projects. The philosophy, one of the things that it really inspired part of my thinking around this was actually at an ATSI conference when I learned that of the image of the freshwater meeting the saltwater and this notion of a two-way learning. For the Gunditjmara, the image is centred on the eel, and the eel lives in both freshwater and saltwater. So it was a really lovely image in which to embed some of that, our thinking around two-way learning. The projects that, at learning for the students and the project is very much community-based. It's two-way, it's on-country, it's project-based, very experiential and reflective. The place is a really important aspect of the project, the place and placemaking. Students take 2 field trips to Budgebim. They stay at the Lake Conda Mission and they spend time visiting the various sites. The people are the Gunditjmering, who are the traditional owners, and we work with the elders, the rangers, and with the community. The projects that we work on have all been chosen by the community and to support their community needs for either recreation, for resources, for education, and hopefully for the tourism market if appropriate. Some of the projects that the community have identified, it began with 4 projects and has now grown into 5. There's the Lake Conda Mission itself, where one of the projects is to develop access to the river. for both young people and the elderly to be able to access the river, to find some creative way to use the outdoor space. At Alembi, which was a quarry, and there's a lot of water that's pumped into a neighbouring area, to build a cantilever platform so visitors can come and view the ecology. Designing a bird hide at the Lake Conda Mission, exploring the ecology, rebuilding a traditional stone house, and also recently we were asked to engage with the community to design a memorial at the Lake Conda Cemetery, which I think indicates the trust that we have developed in our relationship. One of the learning objectives for all University of Melbourne students, but also for Engineers Australia, a capacity, a capability for engineers, is to have some understanding of cultural heritage. And what was wonderful is that the co-development of this project allowed us to really think what that means. So rather than just be a theoretical construct, for the students, the place itself informed their understanding of cultural heritage. And from the place, they could start to get actual evidence of the ecology of that place. So the landscape being a volcanic wetland, the resource management, the idea of using local materials, understanding the Gunditjmara seasons and how that impacts on the landscape and the way that they be in that landscape, the flora, the fauna, and of course the eels. For the Gunditjmara people, they have actually developed quite a number of resources that the students are able to use. So there are books, online materials, as well as some apps that they've developed for students to be able to really learn more about that community. From the sense of place, students can start to learn about the physical space, the spiritual connection to country, the landform itself, textures, resources available, and start thinking about how to leave a minimum footprint. They can also learn about the culture, the art, the traditions, the stories, Dreamtime stories, and some of the patterns that are embedded in both the stories and in the landscape itself. And all of these things students go and gather and learn about and then bring back to inform the design that they are coming up with. And one of the very special things about BudgeBIM is that it's provided an opportunity to learn about the Gunditjmara through time. At BudgeBIM, students get a real sense of the connection to country and the land, which was there from before time, to learn about traditional knowledge, ancestral wisdom, to learn about how they managed the eel traps, built stone houses, built the possum cloaks, the tools that they developed, and the weaving, the eel traps, for example. Students can learn about the impact of colonisation and how it's led to a loss of culture, language, knowledge, family and sovereignty. And also they can learn what it means today in a contemporary world for Gunditjmara people wanting to engage with country, to learn from country, to reclaim culture, to support youth and to teach others. And I now just want to share with you a very short video that was prepared by a group of students, which will give you an indication as to how they experienced it.
I'd like to begin by just asking you to say something about your overall experiences of this subject.
time. I know love is hard to find. Letters from moonlight wishes me a good night. We stand on the sideline, alone we walk up.
What Gunditjmara Land and Waters means to me
Damien
is that
Bell.
we're part of it as Gunditjmara people. We're responsible for it. We're obligated to it. If we didn't have our lands and waters, we wouldn't have our identity and our purpose. And I suppose the rest of the country wouldn't have us as the conscience of country about doing the right thing. That takes us back to our ancestors, to our grandparents, and it's about blood as well. If we didn't have land and waters, we wouldn't have blood. So it means everything that I do and everything that we do as Gunditjmara people always is related to the land and waters.
It's important that we keep that, there's no disconnect between what we experience for those kids that are coming through now. A lot of our kids will come from different backgrounds, have different behavioural issues, and when they've got culture, something to cling to keep them on the straight and narrow, it's really important in that sense, yeah. I guess for me, we grow up healthy here, and when we go away, if we're not doing well, we come home and
There's a lot more I could share, but I want to just close my little part of the story by saying this has not just been a journey of coming to learn knowledge with the mind, it's also coming to know it with the heart and with our embodied experience on the land. And one of the wonderful things that this is developing now into is ongoing projects, research projects, and I'm just going to ask Lawrence Molloy to share some of those, one aspect of that research project. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay. I acknowledge the Gumatj country and the Yolngu. Just very quickly, the video, we have a video going? We don't have a video? This is the Allambie site in Western Victoria. There are about 200 stone structures that have been identified. You're now seeing LiDAR data and flooding of the eel ponds. We have a very good idea of how they were managing the eel traps. And also, we are now identifying the stone structures themselves. You'll see in the upper right-hand corner, these are some of the stone houses. We now feel fairly confident we can measure across the landscape with drones to identify stone houses, and from that really build a much better idea of settlement organization, pathways, and population numbers in Western Victoria. So this data was collected by students and then supported by researchers. So this is just part of the focus that we're doing in Indigenous engineering in Melbourne. Thank you.